Canada's immigration system is at a critical crossroads in 2025, caught between fiery political demands for strict limits and the undeniable economic need for skilled workers to fuel growth. Skyrocketing prices and limited supply have made homeownership a distant dream for many. Job market struggles. The national unemployment rate stands at 6.9%, with youth unemployment hitting a staggering 14.2%. Critics argue that rapid immigration exacerbates job competition, particularly for low-skill positions. Infrastructure strain. Urban centers like Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal are buckling under the weight of growing populations, with overcrowded transit systems, overwhelmed healthcare facilities, and stretched school capacities. Yet, these challenges tell only half the story. While political calls for cuts gain traction, Canada's economy is grappling with a different crisis, one that immigration could help solve. Why slashing immigration could cripple Canada's economy? Cutting immigration might seem like a quick fix to ease pressure on housing and services, but industry leaders and economists warn it could push Canada toward economic stagnation. The nation's workforce is shrinking due to an aging population and significant brain drain, with over 106,000 Canadians leaving in 2024, the highest emigration in nearly 6 decades. A 2025 survey of tech firms found that 15% of top talent relocated abroad, citing better salaries and lower taxes elsewhere. As conservative leader Pierre Poilievre pushes for hard caps on immigration, citing pressures on housing, jobs, and infrastructure, businesses, hospitals, and schools are sounding alarms over worsening labor shortages. Here's why immigration remains critical. Labor shortages are crippling industries. Over 55% of small businesses report unfilled vacancies, particularly in healthcare, tech, construction, and education. Without skilled workers, hospitals struggle to staff nurses, tech companies lose competitiveness, and construction projects stall, worsening the housing crisis. Economic growth depends on newcomers. Immigration accounts for nearly 100% of the Canadian labor force's growth. A 10% reduction in immigration could slash GDP growth by 0.5%, risking a recession. Education sector in crisis. Post-secondary institutions, heavily reliant on international student tuition, face budget shortfalls due to recent study permit caps. These caps threaten the financial stability of colleges and universities, which educate the next generation of skilled workers. Brain drain threatens competitiveness. Canada is losing skilled professionals to the US and other countries. Programs like Express Entry and the Provincial Nominee Program, PNP, are designed to retain talent by fast-tracking temporary residents, such as international students and workers, into permanent residency. Cutting these pathways risks losing pre-integrated high-value contributors. With the Canadian population crossing 41.5 million and a brain drain siphoning off talent, the nation faces a pivotal question. Should immigration be slashed, or should it be strategically refined to meet urgent economic demands? The Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada (IRCC) 2025-2027 Immigration Levels Plan reflects this reality, projecting that over 40% of permanent resident admissions in 2025 will come from temporary residents already in Canada. These individuals are already contributing to the economy and integrated into society, making their transition to permanent status a low-impact way to bolster the workforce. The real challenges: housing, jobs, and infrastructure. While immigration fuels economic growth, it undeniably strains resources when mismanaged. The housing crisis is a prime example. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, warns that housing shortages could push average home prices to $1 million by 2035 if current trends continue. Rapid population growth, driven by both permanent and temporary residents, has outpaced construction, with urban centers like Toronto and Vancouver feeling the brunt. The job market presents another hurdle. While high-skill sectors like tech and healthcare face shortages, low-skill industries report wage suppression due to an influx of temporary workers. A 2023 Statistics Canada report found that hiring challenges in low skilled jobs are often due to inadequate wages rather than a lack of workers, suggesting that immigration policy should prioritize high skill sectors. Canada's immigration crisis and debate. Infrastructure is equally strained. Cities struggle to expand transit, healthcare, and schools to accommodate population growth. For example, Toronto needs 305 doctors in 2025 alone. But current immigration streams don't guarantee placement in high need areas. The IRCC backlog, which jumped by over 76,000 applications in May 2025, further complicates matters, delaying the integration of skilled workers who could address these gaps. A smarter path forward. Precision immigration. Rather than imposing blanket caps, experts advocate for a targeted, data-driven immigration strategy that aligns with Canada's economic needs and infrastructure capacity. Here's how Canada can refine its approach. Prioritize high-demand sectors. The 2025-2027 Immigration Levels Plan emphasizes economic immigration, with 61.7% of admissions by 2027 dedicated to sectors like healthcare, construction, tech, and education. Express Entry's category-based selection prioritizes candidates with skills in nursing, carpentry, software development, and teaching, ensuring newcomers fill critical gaps. Regionalize immigration. Canada's needs vary by region. Toronto faces housing pressure, while Atlantic Canada needs population growth. The immigration conversation in Canada has reached a boiling point, driven by a mix of economic realities and political rhetoric. The Provincial Nominee Program, PNP, and Rural Community Immigration Pilot can direct immigrants to areas with labor shortages and housing capacity, balancing growth across the country. Streamline temporary to permanent pathways. Over 40% of 2025's permanent residents will be former temporary residents, such as international students and workers. Fast-tracking these individuals, who are already integrated, reduces strain on resources while retaining talent. Delays in processing, currently up to 18 months for some, must be addressed by digitizing systems and increasing IRCC staffing. Address infrastructure gaps. Immigration policy must align with housing and infrastructure development. Federal funding for 500,000 new homes annually, coupled with incentives for post-secondary institutions to build student housing, could ease urban pressures, combat brain drain. To counter the loss of 106,000 Canadians in 2024, immigration programs should target professionals in tech, healthcare, and trades. For example, a software engineer on a work permit should be fast-tracked for permanent residency to prevent their departure. Reform temporary resident programs. The 2025-2027 plan sets temporary resident targets at 673,650 for 2025, including 305,900 international students and 82,000 temporary foreign workers, TFW, reducing the temporary resident share to 5% of the population by 2026 will ease pressure on urban centers. But exemptions for seasonal workers and asylum seekers ensure humanitarian commitments are met. On July 14, 2025, Pierre Poilievre reignited the debate with a call for very hard caps on immigration levels, arguing that Canada's rapid population growth, nearing 1 million new residents annually, has outpaced the country's ability to provide adequate housing, jobs, and services. The targeted reforms ensure immigration supports economic growth without overwhelming infrastructure. The political tightrope, balancing public sentiment and economic reality. Public sentiment is shifting. The 2024 Environics survey showed that Canadians value skilled, educated immigrants, but are less supportive of temporary workers and international students, with only 27% and 28% prioritizing these groups. Social media platforms like X reflect rising frustration, with some posts amplifying concerns about housing and job competition, though mainstream voices focus on reform rather than anti-immigrant rhetoric. Politicians face a delicate balancing act. Poilievre's hardline stance risks alienating immigrant-heavy constituencies in Toronto and Vancouver, crucial for electoral success. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mark Carney, elected in April 2025, advocates a stabilization strategy, reducing permanent resident targets to $395,000 in 2025, $380,000 in 2026, and $365,000 in 2027 to ease infrastructure strain while maintaining economic growth. The economic stakes. Immigration as a lifeline. Immigration is Canada's economic lifeline. His provocative suggestion that more people should leave than come for the next few years has polarized opinions, with some praising his focus on strained infrastructure and others warning of catastrophic economic fallout. With 5 million baby boomers set to retire by 2030, the worker to retiree ratio will drop to 3.1 without immigration. International students contribute $15 billion annually to the economy, while temporary workers fill critical roles in agriculture and healthcare. A 2025 RBC report warns that skill mismatches and infrastructure strain could erode these benefits if immigration isn't aligned with long-term needs. For example, healthcare faces a dire shortage of nurses and physicians, with wait times potentially doubling without new talent. In tech, Canada competes globally for developers skilled in Python and cloud services. Construction, vital for addressing the housing crisis, needs skilled tradespeople like welders and carpenters. Education requires teachers to support growing student populations. The path to sustainable immigration. Canada cannot afford to slash immigration without risking economic collapse, but it also cannot ignore public concerns about housing and infrastructure. The 2025-2027 Immigration Levels Plan offers a starting point, reducing permanent resident targets and capping temporary residents to 5% of the population by 2026. Poilievre's stance reflects growing public concern. However, success hinges on execution, clear communication. The government must launch campaigns to highlight immigration's benefits while addressing capacity concerns, countering rising skepticism. 57% of Canadians distrust Ottawa's immigration management per a 2025 Angus Reid poll. Regional focus. Directing immigrants to less populated regions like Atlantic Canada can boost local economies without straining urban centers. Backlog reduction. The IRCC backlog, up 76,000 in May 2025, delays integration of skilled workers. Digitization and increased staffing are critical. Housing investment. Aligning immigration with housing construction, targeting 500,000 new homes annually, will ease affordability pressures. Canada's immigration debate is not about choosing between growth and stability. It's about achieving both. Blanket caps risk economic stagnation, while unchecked inflows strain resources. A precision immigration strategy, targeting high-demand sectors, streamlining pathways, and investing in infrastructure, can turn immigration into Canada's greatest asset. By bringing in the right people, at the right time, for the right reasons, Canada can address labor shortages, counter brain drain, and build a sustainable future. The stakes are high, but with smart policies, Canada can transform this crisis into an opportunity for prosperity. A 2024 Environics Institute survey revealed that 58% of Canadians believe immigration levels are too high, a sharp rise from 27% in 2022. The reasons are clear. Housing crisis. Canada constructs approximately 200,000 homes annually, but experts estimate a need for 430,000 to 480,000 new homes each year to keep up with population growth.